Welcome to Make Possible Bitesize, a weekly podcast brought to you by Permutive, championing change in publishing, advertising, and beyond. Each episode, we chat to an inspiring guest about their careers, their lives, and how they're making change possible. Let's bite right in.
Hello everyone, my name is Izzy Ashton and I'm the Deputy Editor of Byte, the trends and editorial platform of Creative Brief. Welcome to a special edition of Make Possible Bitesize. Women's History Month, members of DICE have teamed up with Permutive to shine a light on inspiring women. DICE's aim is to bring diversity and inclusion to conferences and events, to ensure every perspective is heard and every story is told. Their primary aim? No more Manels. For today's episode, I'm delighted to welcome Yolanta Boti, a senior creative at Ogilvy. Zambian-born, Yolanta was a full-time singer-songwriter before she joined the agency through the Pipe internship. Once there, she co-founded Ogre Roots, a network aiming to champion greater ethnic and cultural diversity in the agency, industry, and its work. It's now grown into WPP Roots and is housed in many WPP agencies globally. This year, she launched a podcast with her best friends called Reserved, created to support, humour and celebrate Black women on topics such as mental health, personal growth and self-care. So today we welcome her to Make Possible Bitesize. Hi, Yolanta.
Hi, Izzy. Thank you so much for the introduction. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to start by asking you to talk about why you decided to set up Ogilvy Roots.
So when I came into the industry, which was about 2016, it was me and my friends who were on different internships happening at the same time at Ogilvy. And we just noticed that there was a lack of ethnic diversity within the building, but also within the industry as a whole. And we just wanted to do something about it. I think there's something about being naive and young that just allows you to be a little bit more bold. So we came together and we were like, okay, what are we going to do? And then we decided to do and actually create a network. And at the time, we had an amazing champion, Annette King, who was leading Ogilvy at the time. And she really believed in us and she gave us funding. And it was really the first time that we felt that we were really supported. And we just wanted to try and make a difference. And then, of course, years on, that grew into WPP Roots, and now Roots can be found in loads of different WPP agencies. And I think as a whole, our movement is just about the fact that anytime anyone walks into the workspace in WPP, they should feel as though they already belong without it having to be obvious. So we want to continue championing and highlighting ethnic diversity within the work that we do, where we get the sources of our information. Also, we are also used as a sense check. So if anybody wants to release work, but they want to just make sure that it's culturally sensitive, we'll also be able to help on that. I think we just want to work as a team, and we have so many wonderful allies who also work in the network. So we're one big, huge family, and especially at Ogilvy, I think it's been wonderful to see how we're growing, but also how the leadership board as well supports us into making and actioning loads of the things that we feel passionate about.
That's brilliant. How many members are there now of the Ogilvy Roots?
Oh my goodness. So we've had people come and go. And I think now we're probably about 20 or 22, around that much. We've got a leadership board where I sit as a social secretary. So we have about 5 members who are leadership members. And so we tackle all of the hard conversations, the tough things, and the wider team help support with events, help support within creating new policies and ideas. And because we feel as though also it's important for us to diversify the things that we talk about. Like I'm a Black woman who's Christian, so it's also important to get a Muslim perspective. It's also important to just widen the branch and celebrate different cultures that are also very different to my own as well.
And different layers within the agency, so from
exactly
all the way down to the bottom.
Exactly.
Yes. Oh, brilliant. And what are the challenges that you are sort of most proud to have overcome within your career?
So I think for myself, in my career, I've seen a lot of the challenges that I faced as opportunities. But if I had to pick a really challenging time, I think it had to be last year during the George Floyd murder and the Black Lives Matter movement. That was the first time that emotionally I had just felt so emotionally fragile. And at the same time, I really had to be in rooms at work where we had to speak on diversity and inclusion and creating policies and having these really challenging conversations. So it really was emotionally just a very hard space and a hard time to overcome. But I wouldn't say I'm necessarily proud to overcome it. But I think I'm hopeful that the conversations that we had, that the policies that have now been put into place, that the actionable points that Ogilvy and WPP want to achieve this year will hopefully then create a more diverse and inclusive workspace in the future, and that will level the playing field and actually create something that is wholesome and just allows and embrace loads of different people to also access our industry as well.
Sort of growth from the pain of that
Yeah,
moment, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah. And in the aftermath of those events, sort of how did the Roots sort of community rally around? Did you host discussions and events? How did you sort of
Yes.
bring the whole agency into a conversation that they all needed to be part of, but perhaps didn't know how to navigate?
Yeah, so at first it was incredibly challenging. I think for many members, it was, as I said, a very emotionally just fragile. And so what we did initially was within the first couple of weeks, we held what's called safe rooms. So we all came together, and it was kind of like a safe space for people to share their experiences and things that that they wish to like better and become, for us to kind of formulate points of action to take to our leadership parties. And then we also then held a kind of external event where we invited loads of people in the agency, loads of allies as well, and had the conversations face to face. And people were then free to express that, oh my gosh, I did not know that that was culturally insensitive. I'm really sorry if I've ever done this. And we were then teaching and learning from each other. So it was really one of the first times that I had seen such a difficult topic handled in a way that allowed each and every person to feel as though they can take something away from what, like, it was a learning experience for everyone, really. And from that point on, we discussed with the leadership board. I'm now part of the WPP Inclusion Council with Mark Reed, which is one of the things that he actioned from that conversation. So a lot of great things are happening in the background that I hope are seen into fruition within 2021. And even in 2021, Roots, we have points and actions that we also want to achieve as well this year, that are just a bit more lighthearted, but also embracing loads of different cultures. And also, since we're working virtually, how we can also become closer as well, because it's so hard working in this digital way. So we have big visions that I really hope we can make really amazing changes.
Oh, brilliant. It really sort of demonstrates actually the power of building that community internally to allow you to then action change. And I think that sort of flows really nicely onto my next question, which is sort of what's your focus for this year? What's the sort of driving force behind the work that you do? And where do you see that taking you over the sort of year ahead?
So I think for me personally, my gosh, so 2020, towards the end of last year, I had a really bad case of burnout. I think loads of people probably felt it. So this year, my aim is just to have a bit more fun and just ease up a little bit. I think I'm one of those people who just always has like goals to reach, actions to actions, and sometimes my brain just needs to just rest. So I'm doing loads of mindful work in my personal life. I'm taking it slow within my also the way that I'm speaking to myself. Practicing kindness to myself as well. And I just also want to inject a bit of fun into the work that I do, the work that I do for my clients at work, and the work that I do for Roots, and just kind of be the sense of joy and peace that I'm also searching for. And at the same time, I also want to remain as visible as possible to also hopefully draw some more diverse people to come into the industry as well. Because I also think visibility is important to know that, oh my gosh, someone who looks like me is doing this cool job. Maybe I can do it too. So those are the kind of aims, but to have just a bit of fun all around, because I think we've been taken through the ringer. So I think it's time to have a little bit of fun and take it easy.
I love that, like such a sense of optimism about the year ahead. It definitely feels that way today. The sun is shining. It's
Definitely.
like
It's spring.
yeah. Oh, I love that thought. Yeah, really sort of carrying that joy, because I think it can be also the year that we've had has been very difficult for everyone for
Yeah,
different reasons, and I think that you can carry that sense of joy throughout things that you do, even when they're really difficult. And I think that
exactly.
your point about visibility is a very interesting one, because I think that's a real balance between protecting your own mental health, but also wanting to kind of further the agenda within the industry.
Exactly.
And navigating that balance is, I guess, an ever sort of growing lesson.
Yeah, it's really hard because you don't really know. It's almost like you want to give all of yourself, but then there's also parts of yourself that you also have to nurture and take care of. And, now that we have been in lockdown for a really long time, we also haven't had the opportunities and to meet the people who would be our, sounding boards and experience new cultures and new things outside of just our homes and watching Master Chef, or I don't know, Chef's Kitchen, is it Chef's
A
Table?
stable, yeah.
Chef's Chef's Table, yes, that's one of my favorites currently.
Nice. I'll have to give it a watch. So our final question for today's bite-sized show is, what advice would you give to the next generation of creatives who are perhaps suffering from a degree of creative crisis of confidence, particularly as you said, this lockdown extends and we've now been working virtually for almost a year, which is crazy to
Yeah.
think. But I guess particularly those individuals from underrepresented communities or others who simply sort of can't see a way to get their foot in the door, what would your advice be?
So for me, I think that all kind of comes back to like imposter syndrome. And like I've experienced it myself, like imposter syndrome can really knock your confidence and make you feel as though you can't achieve all of the goals that you want. But it's also important to just know that your ideas are needed in this industry. Your insights are so valuable. Your background is an asset, and that you must do whatever it takes to just make your dreams come true. That's what at least I believe. And even if you don't have access to an internship that's opened yet, there's loads of things that you can do to upskill yourself. If it's in the creative aspect, there's loads of free videos about Photoshop. Like that's how I learned Photoshop, on YouTube. There's also loads of videos about the life of an art director, what they actually do, life of a copywriter. Pinterest has loads of information about art direction and copywriting and tips and tricks and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't also go to university for advertising. I got in through my internship. So keep your eye out for internships that are coming out from agencies that you might be interested in. You can stalk people on LinkedIn as well, stalk their HR teams. That's just a little tip from me. And if you want to DM me as well on LinkedIn, feel free to. I'll be happy to help. But just stay hungry, because I feel like when preparation meets opportunity, amazing things can happen. And you, who's listening to me right now, literally, your ideas can change the world, but you don't know until you actually give it a go and until you try. So we need you, and come.
Oh, that's such a brilliant way to end. Thank you so much, Yolanta. You've been such a inspiring guest on today's episode. I've really loved chatting to you, and I feel inspired to go and stalk on LinkedIn and and send lots of messages out. So thank
No,
you so much.
thank you so much for having me. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, amazing. Well, all that leaves me to do is to thank all of you for tuning in to this special episode of Make Possible Bite Size. And next week, we'll be speaking to another inspiring guest about what they do to champion change. So we'll see you then, and have a lovely rest of your day.